The Last of Us is bigger than ever, and a brand new TV adaptation of the hit PlayStation franchise is on the way. Now, most fans are super hyped for the show, but not everybody is pleased about the direction it's going in. There are actually a ton of people who think that the casting for the main characters doesn't make sense. Now, we don't know about you, but we believe the backlash is kind of ridiculous. Here's why. For starters, this franchise is no stranger to controversy. It's pretty common knowledge at this point that The Last of Us is one of the greatest games of all time. Developer Naughty Dog hit the ball out of the park with the first title, and it kickstarted one of the biggest sensations the video game world has ever seen. The first installment in the series won basically every award out there, and Sony has managed to sell over 20 million copies of the game worldwide. A sequel was basically a no-brainer from the moment it came out in 2013, but that's where things got complicated. Naughty Dog took things in an interesting direction with The Last of Us Part 2. The story took a lot of crazy turns, and some fans weren't too happy about how it handled returning characters. We're not going to spoil anything for those who haven't played it yet, but let's just say nobody escaped the sequel without a few battle scars. And now that we've gotten our first look at the HBO show, the franchise just got another round of fan criticism. Believe it or not, some folks think the casting doesn't live up to the standard of the games. You heard that right. HBO had to deal with a ton of backlash when it announced the cast. Personally, we think Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey are going to kill it as Joel and Ellie, but that's not a popular opinion. Fans are worried they won't be able to do justice to the material, and honestly, we get why they're afraid. The casting for Joel and Ellie was always going to be pretty tricky, because they're a massive part of what makes The Last of Us such a special experience. That's not to mention how vital they are to the series. If you've played the games, you'll know that they all revolve around Joel and Ellie's relationship. It's what makes this franchise tick, and it wouldn't be the same without them. Seriously, if you took the duo out of the story, you'd be left with a pretty stereotypical zombie narrative, and nobody wants that. Why? Well, the answer's pretty obvious. When you're adapting a video game into another medium, you really need to focus on the story. There's no gameplay to make up for mediocre storylines, so the characters and the world really have to land. Honestly, the whole reason the game works so well is that all the story beats are complemented by truly pulse-pounding gameplay. You really feel like you're Joel and struggling to survive in the zombie apocalypse, and it can be difficult to build that kind of immersion in TV. That's not to mention the fact that The Last of Us is heavily inspired by zombie movies from the past. It's a really cinematic video game, sure, but it owes a lot to its genre. If you take away Naughty Dog's brilliant gameplay mechanics, would the experience still be that powerful? That's why there's so much pressure on Pascal and Ramsey. These two are what'll set The Last of Us show apart from the other post-apocalyptic stuff like Children of Men and The Road, and that's why fans are so worried. If the casting isn't done right, you can basically write the whole thing off. HBO won't renew it for a second season, and people won't understand what makes these characters so special. So yeah, there's a lot riding on the actors. Fortunately for the fans, we've got a feeling that they might be overreacting. What's more, the backlash is kind of ridiculous. Let's talk about the main issue that people are bringing up in relation to the show. Get this, people feel like Pascal and Ramsey don't look enough like their counterparts from the video games. Now, making sure your actors look like the characters they're playing is important to an extent. You wouldn't want someone who doesn't look anything like Joel to play Joel, for example. That said, finding people who look exactly like fictional characters is literally impossible, and criticizing Bella for not looking enough like Ellie is a little over the top if you ask us. Another criticism that's been popping up is even more unfair though. Fans have been picking at the teaser trailer that HBO put out a few weeks ago, and a few of them have taken issue with a specific line delivery. If you look at the comments for the teaser on YouTube, you'll see a bunch of people saying that Pascal's delivery feels more rushed than Troy Baker's original reading. They're talking about the "you have no idea what loss is" line, and the fact that they're basing their criticisms on a 30-second clip is pretty funny. At the end of the day though, their concerns are pretty understandable. Don't get us wrong, judging Pascal and Ramsey before they've even had a chance to prove themselves is out of line, but it comes from a pretty earnest place. There's a lot of love for The Last of Us out there, and everyone really wants the TV show to succeed. Now, a lot of fans think that the only way the show can win is if it follows the video games to a T, but that's actually not the case. In fact, that's not even a realistic way of looking at the project. Now it's time for us to talk about why the show is hype-worthy. The biggest reason people are excited for The Last of Us show is one man's involvement, Neil Druckmann. This guy directed and wrote both Part 1 and Part 2, and he's teaming up with Chernobyl screenwriter Craig Mazin for the HBO show. He's obviously one of the creative driving forces behind the franchise, and his participation is really good news. Why? Well, if there's one thing we know about Druckmann, it's that he always does justice to his characters. And that's why we're pretty sure the series is going to be super faithful to the vision of the games. What's more, he's actually talked about how the team has had to shake up a few things to transition to TV. Apparently, the show is going to expand upon the source material to make it fit the realm of television, and we can definitely get behind that. What's more, his comments are a sign that the series versions of Joel and Ellie basically have to be different from their video game counterparts. They need to be in order to build out the world of the TV show. The transition just wouldn't make sense otherwise. And everything the actors have said so far has got us super hopeful for the future. Ramsey has come out to say that she has a special relationship with the original game, and that making a faithful adaptation is really important to her. Pascal has echoed her comments, bringing home the fact that both artists are massive fans of the franchise. That's enough to get us excited to see the show. No one knows if it's going to be any good, but let's give it a chance before coming to any conclusions. Now let's look at some other news about HBO's projects. First off, they just passed on some major projects. The studio has been a lot more careful with projects since CEO David Zaslav took over, and it sounds like they're not taking any more risks. Get this, they just passed on 2 shows produced by Star Wars director J.J. Abrams. You heard that right. HBO won't be involved in the production of Constantine and Madam X. That's pretty shocking since we just got confirmation that Keanu Reeves will be reprising his role in a new Constantine movie. It sounds like HBO isn't interested in movie tie-ins anymore. Next up, they just cast a Deadwood actor in one of their upcoming shows. Timothy Olyphant will be joining Zazie Beetz and Claire Danes in Full Circle. That's the new series from director Steven Soderbergh and writer Ed Solomon. So it's a pretty big deal if you ask us. The show's going to have a 6-episode run and is apparently a crime series about a botched kidnapping in New York City. Now, we don't know about you, but that sounds like a pretty exciting concept to us. Soderbergh usually delivers, so let's hope it lives up to the hype. Finally, there might be price hikes for HBO subscribers on the horizon. How do we know? Well, Warner Brothers CFO Gunnar Weidenfels just referred to Discovery Plus and HBO Max as underpriced during a recent tech conference. That's got everyone thinking that Warner Brothers will be increasing the prices of their services. That's pretty sad news, but it's not really a surprise. Tons of streaming services have been announcing price hikes, including Netflix and Disney Plus. We don't know the new price yet, but you should probably get your wallet ready. That's a wrap for this video. Are you looking forward to seeing HBO's version of The Last of Us? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.